Hi everyone and welcome back to the Clwb podcast. This is episode 12 and it is a very monumental episode. I'm once again joined by Alex, but we are joined by a guest. Not only is this another guest, but it's also our first ever female guest. Now that is Miss Eva Murniece. Eva, if you want to say hello.
Hi guys.
Now for those of you who don't know Eva, she is a current osteopath student at Swansea University. She's also an online coach and qualified nutritionist. And she is also the PCA Bikini national champion. And last weekend, she came 6th place in the PCA British finals in her first competitive season. Now, this is a really, really big accomplishment, especially for someone in their first competitive season. And she was also the poster girl at the event. Do you want to start by telling everyone about that?
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I got a message in the morning from my coaches that someone sent them from the judging panel, and it was just me on a poster, and I didn't know how big the poster was. I thought it was like a small poster up until I went into the venue, and it was like front of the stage, and it was like bigger than me, and I was like, oh my god. And it was there for the whole weekend, and I did not expect it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I know, imagine that for your first season being the
Imagine me when I go and compete in powerlifting now, and I'm like, I'm the guy. I'm the IPF use me for. Nah, they won't. That's just not happening.
Use Alex's chins.
Yeah, I didn't know that was your first season though. That's that's impressive.
So let's start with last weekend then, because obviously that was the most recent thing. How did that go for you? How do you feel about
that? In terms of the physique I brought to stage, I was really proud of it, because I looked back at my first and my second qualifier competitions, and there were areas that I really wanted to improve on. But in terms of the placing, of course, I was hoping to be top 3. Anyone who enters wants to be their best and place at the possible best. So I was a little bit gutted about that, but everything else, like my physique and my performance on stage, like I'm very, very happy with what I brought on that day and on that weekend.
So let's backtrack a little bit now. How did you actually get into? What do you call it, by the way? So is it just bikini bodybuilding? Is that what I call it? Or was that something different?
I think it's bikini fitness, like the right one.
Bikini
because bodybuilding
fitness.
is more figure and bodybuilders, and physique.
So it's like the women's version of men's physique then.
Yeah, men's physique is physique fitness, women's bikini is fitness, and then figure and bodybuilding.
Okay, so how did you get into fitness, bikini fitness, bodybuilding?
how did you want to come on stage? I think that's what I was
Yeah.
I've always been into the gym and into training, and from a very young age I've done all sports in schools, but specifically bikini fitness / bodybuilding. It was when I was in my last relationship. The guy had prepped before, and he was starting to prep again, and I'd always seen prep as something very obsessive, something that might go down like a very controlling environment. And coming from a past of like an eating disorder when I was really, really a young teenager, I didn't want to go down that like obsessive route again. So I always saw it as a negative, like why would I want to go and prep? Why would I want to control every minuscule thing of my life?
Yeah.
But then being with someone who saw the positive side of it and showed me the positive side to it, it showed me like a lot of things that I could strive towards, and just go into gym every day. Like you do plateau, like you do hit a wall, and you're like, what am I doing this for? General health and fitness, just like a basic like fitness look. So when I had that like end goal of like, especially being very competitive, I was like, oh my god, there's so many benefits that I just completely disregarded because I didn't want to get obsessed with it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people sort of see that side of it because they see like the state. I think when you see bodybuilders in prep, you just hear about like the suffering. Like you hear about like, oh, I'm dieting and I feel like this, I feel like that. And I've heard all this before. I've obviously got a lot of bodybuilders on social media, and I see that. And to me, that like prep does seem very daunting, because I've done like sort of dieting before for like fights and stuff, and I've had to be like a certain weight. It does seem quite daunting. Why isn't, obviously you said there's a more positive side of it. What are these positives that you speak of?
Okay, so the positives are like the feeling of self-accomplishment, like breaking the boundaries that you thought were like your limit, and you can overcome that and achieve like your new best. Like the feeling, the intrinsic accomplishment is like far beyond like anything you can achieve. Like it's not about like getting the trophy on the stage. Trophy is just like a reminder of like the journey, rather than it like being worth a piece of like metal.
Yeah. It's more about the journey.
Yeah, so like what you've been through mentally, physically, what you've overcome, like look that you achieve, like that you didn't even think was possible.
Yeah, it's the fact that it was hard then that you kind of feel so good at the end of it.
And then you're like, I fucking did that, like, and you're like, I did not know that I could do that, and that in itself is like the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that's. You obviously said you came from having an eating disorder. I think that's such a massive step to go from like having that in your past to being a competitive bodybuilder, and you're a champion. You can't forget that.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised how many people disguise having eating disorders as prep. So there's a lot of females in the industry who have ongoing eating disorders because they like that control. They like having that aspect of their life that they can control so much.
Yeah.
And they disguise it for prep. And there are girls who starve themselves to get on stage.
That's interesting.
And you don't see as much now because there is so much more healthy ways and more flexible ways of dieting. Like back years ago, my coaches, when they tell me like it's very like strict chicken rice, like old school. So there is more flexibility nowadays.
Yeah. So I actually watched a podcast episode before, and there was a woman on there who said that if you have had some sort of insecurity with regards to your body and eating in the past, going down the competitive bodybuilding route is actually very dangerous because it just completely inflates all of your insecurities and all of your sort of eating disorder mentality. Do you feel like you had to overcome loads of these mental obstacles at the beginning? And like, if so, what were they? You can be as brief as you want. You don't have to elaborate.
I'm happy talking about it. I think so. I was 12 years old when I had an eating disorder, and it took me about 5 years to be able to comfortably talk about it. And ever since then, I can just like mention a conversation, like it doesn't bother me at all. But the biggest thing is like body image and whether you have an eating disorder or not. And I remember at the start of my like prep, so at the end of my off season, going into my prep, I had really bad like body image issues, and I was like, I don't know whether I can pose like in a tiny thong on stage in front of thousands of people. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to like.
I definitely couldn't do that.
I was like, oh my god, what have I signed myself up for? That thong just about covers your butt crack. Like I'm not even kidding. And I was like, what have I signed myself up for? I remember having like a call with my coach, and I was like, I don't know whether I can like visually put myself out there. I'm like, my body dysmorphia is taken over. Like when I pose, like I'm not happy with what I see. And she's like, we had this like really open chat because she's also had an eating disorder in the past many years ago, so we could relate to each other, and that was really. It was nice to be understood where I come from. So there are coaches who be like, just get over it. And you're like, you don't understand.
Yeah, that must have been hard. Because obviously there's a lot more to bodybuilding, and especially stepping on stage, that we see. Like, we just think about, like, the whole being in shape, you know, like, looking shredded. But when you think about it, you have to literally step on stage with a thong on. Or in your case, a thong and a bikini, or basically a bikini.
Yeah.
And pose in front of like hundreds of people.
It's the same for the men though. They haven't got much. They haven't got much to wear, have they?
There's like a thin piece of fabric covering like your private parts for being on display.
That's not too bad.
Oh, see, that's the bit that bothers me. Like, I was like, why would I want to stand there? And this isn't the criticism. This is just, it's just a general feeling. Like, why would I want to stand there in front of so many people? I mean, I'm quite insecure about my body. That's probably why. But I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could stand there. And
that was me at the start of prep. I was like,
I've just stood there like, why on earth would I stand there with next to nothing on in front of thousands of people who are looking at me, every inch of my body, and saying, does that look good or not? Like, I can't think of, there's alarm bells ringing in my head right now saying, why would, don't do that.
Think about his chin. Let alone what everyone thinks.
If there was a chin bodybuilding division.
I was Mr. Olympia now. But anyway, so you obviously went through a lot of mental struggle at the start. Yeah. Looking back right now, do you think that was like necessary in order for you to like compete?
Oh yeah, every time
do you think it was good you got over it?
Yeah, every time you hit like some sort of issue or wall and you overcome it, like that is such a big motivator to go forwards. Because like if I can overcome that, what else can I overcome? So it is definitely like something worth going through.
Yeah, considering this is your first season as well, you must have gone through like a roller coaster.
One hell of a roller coaster.
Yeah, so how many shows did you do this season then?
Yeah, so the first one I did was on the 2nd of July in Birmingham. And that was kind of like what all I expected to do this season. came into bodybuilding, I knew nothing about like competing. I knew very, very minimal. I just kind of thought you did one show, the outcome's the outcome, and that's it really. Turns out there's finals, turns out there's worlds, turns out there's a universe, right?
Yeah.
My first thought was, who the hell goes to the universe?
Yeah.
Like, the worlds.
Yeah.
And who goes to the universe? I was like, aliens? Like, that's...
Galaxy champions.
Yeah.
That was like, when I found out, I was like, oh my god, what have I got myself into? Because I just thought, like, it's just one comp. But obviously I was hoping to win my first comp, and I remember visualising, like, leading up to the comp, like, my name being called out as, like, first place. And I remember being backstage on my first competition and looking around in the pump-up zone to, like, quickly, like, glance, compare yourself.
Zone. I like that.
You've got all the resistance bands,
I've seen
a few
that,
dumbbells and stuff. And I'm kind of, like, on the first comp, like, I was kind of, like, sitting on the edge of, like, my category and being moved up to the next category, which would be bikini trained. So my coach said to me, I was like, look around in the pump-up zone, see how muscular everyone is, and see how much you need to pump up. And I remember seeing this one girl, and she was ripped. And I was like, oh my god, my coach is dead ass told me, do a few lateral raises, do a few RDLs, just pump up, like, the glutes, hams, shoulders, and good to go. When I saw this girl behind stage, I started doing every exercise imaginable. I'm not even kidding. I was like, bicep curls. Bikini girls don't even need biceps. Like,
you're there doing front double biceps straight away.
I was like, I need to.
That's not a pose, is it? Front double bicep.
No, not in bikini.
So. I don't know. This is how little I know. I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
It's okay. And then I was doing every exercise imaginable. I was like, I'm not stopping. Like, this pump is coming. Like, I was doing everything. And then we stepped on stage. And I was like, oh, like, she's winning. Like, she's winning. And then we go in there's kind of like 3 stages to being on stage. The first stage is like your first quarter turns. And then you go to the back of the stage, and then they call out the first call outs. And then the first call outs do their quarter turns, then you get your eye walk, and then you get a pose down. So it's kind of like quarter turns, eye walk, and pose down. And when we went, when you just walk on stage, you kind of do like a prejudge to make sure you're in the right category.
Yeah.
And we were all stood on stage. There was 11 of us initially. And we do our first quarter turns, and they say, okay, whatever her number was, we are moving up to bikini trained. She got moved up. And I was like, oh my god, I'm next.
So what's bikini trained? Is that
It's
more
a muscular version? Okay. So toned, I think it gives it away in the name. Toned is that more like a fitness look where you have the glutes or you have the shoulders, and then when it comes to trained, you're looking at more of the separation in muscles, more volume in the muscles, and then you're much more cut down. So I was kind of like in my first competition on like a questionable board. I was like, I could potentially be moved up, but like I am leaning more towards being in bikini juniors. And when the girl that I was worried about, I was like, oh my god, this girl's ripped behind stage with me. When she got moved up, I was there. I was like, oh my god, that means I'm next, because I was like on the cusp, and I didn't get moved up. And I remember being like, when they said, okay, we're gonna start now, and I was like, at that moment, I knew I'd won, because I was like, I remember that was the only person that I felt threatened by in the pump up zone, and when they moved her up, I was like, fuck, I've got this. Like, I've got it, like, pretty solid in the bag now.
So did you want to get moved up, or were you glad you didn't because you knew you had that category?
I wanted to win, of course. So I wanted to stay in bikini juniors to be able to say that I won. But the girl, she's absolutely lovely. She got moved up to the bikini trained. She won bikini trained, then we both were in the overalls together, and she won the overalls. She looked insane on stage. She looked absolutely phenomenal. Hats off to her, like the amount of effort she must have put into to get to the physique that she was in on that stage day. So she deserved that overall win. She deserved to win bikini train. Like,
and this
she
was
amazing.
your first ever show.
So it was weird because like we both entered bikini juniors, and then we both won the overalls lineup. So
like, how old was she then?
Oh, I don't know. But she's like roughly. I'm 21. I think she must have been 20.
Yeah.
22 maybe.
So just briefly then, what was like the age range then? Were you like quite young compared to everyone else?
No, I think in my first competition, everyone was around like that same age, like somewhere between 19 to about 22. Like bikini juniors is 23 and under. You can get bikini tone from 20.
Oh, so it was in the junior category anyway.
Yeah, and then toned is 24 to like I think it's like 34, 35, and then after tone it goes masters. So 35
The old
plus.
people, yeah.
They're not old. No, that's not old at all.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're going to like this next question, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Oh, God.
And I didn't want to focus on separating male and female bodybuilding because I don't want to do that, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you think there are certain obstacles that you experience as a woman doing prep that many guys wouldn't even think about?
So many. I'm glad you asked.
Okay. There's obviously biological differences and hormonal differences as well.
Yeah, so you do get but men are naturally physiologically like more gifted. They do build muscle mass easier. So in terms of like the physical side, they are more advanced. Like we all know that, science knows that. So that is proven. But in terms of like prepping for stage, like girls have to be on stage in heels. We have to learn to walk. Like, why can't we just be barefoot like the guys? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So we have to worry about, like, I remember I had this like whole routine planned out, stepping on stage, and I remember on my first comp, the only thing going through my mind was don't trip in these heels. Like that was the only thing going through my mind. Like, oh, like everything like I thought of, it'd gone out the window. I was like thinking, whatever you do, just don't trip in front of 1,000 people. Like, that was all going through my mind.
Yeah.
And then, like, the little things that women have to do, like women have to bring that feminine look to stage. Because, like, obviously, bodybuilding is, like, it's a masculine thing to, like, be muscular. Like, it's a masculine trait. So girls have to go, like, get their hair done, get their nails done, like, I don't know, like, all these, like, extra things. And, like, the cost of the bikinis, oh, my God. Do you know what the average cost of a bikini is?
I'm going to go and say 80, 90 pounds, something like that.
I feel like it's a lot more
it's
than
that. It's going to be a lot more, isn't it?
I got the cheapest bikini I could. 250.
Oh my God.
Right.
Why though? What on earth are they made
of?
Does
it make a difference? Like, in all honesty, if you had, like, say, a 750 pound bikini, would it make any difference?
So my bikini, I don't know whether it would. Obviously, it looks better. Like, the visual, it looks better. In PCA, they don't judge you on your bikini. So it wouldn't make a difference to your placing. But in terms of, like, the better the bikini fits, the better you look on stage.
Because you couldn't just get a pre-marked bikini and
No.
just step on stage, could you?
Well, could you? Would you be allowed to? Or does it have to be a certain companies or?
Oh no, it doesn't have to be a certain company. It has to be like a certain look of bikini. So I don't think a Primark would kind of.
You couldn't wear like the full
fit
like the
within that
swimsuit vibe.
I was going to get Alex a bikini and step on stage.
No.
Yeah, like I think the average for like a generation federation like PCA would be, you're looking at like £350 per bikini as a female. I tried to get like as cheap as I could because I'm also a student. I'm like, I ain't got the money to spend on.
That's a lot of money, actually.
I think people forget you're a student, because because all your accomplishments and what you're doing outshines that. You are still a student.
Yeah, I'm a student.
So how did you juggle all that then? Because obviously, like Alex spoke about the differences between male and female, but then there are also the difference between the people who you competed against. They most likely aren't students, so they don't have that as well because you still have a degree to do. You've got to live and support yourself financially.
There are benefits and drawbacks to it. So, like, as a student, we're pretty flexible in terms of, like, my schedule isn't as full on as somebody who would be working, like, 5, 6, 7 days a week. But when you get into prep, you do get a bit of, like, prep brain or brain fog. So when it comes to, like, the academia side of things, you're just sat there, like, why is it not coming to me? Like, why is it not clicking?
Do you know what? I've just thought about how hard that must be.
Yeah, so in terms of, like, time-wise, like, yeah, we've got lectures, yeah, we've got clinic and things like that, doing osteopathy, so we can manage that, like, that's cool. Like, you're there, you can revise it, like, it's fine, you can attend clinic. Clinic's a little bit trickier because you are being a practitioner, so, like, you can't really afford to have brain fog in clinic, because you are treating patients, so you have to be quite full on those days, and they can be quite hard to get through on a prep when it's prep. But in terms of like assignments, yeah, they can be. I can
tell the exhale.
Yeah,
the struggle you face there. Yeah,
they can be hard to get through.
Was that the biggest obstacle you faced then in prep? Because obviously you've got the physical obstacles of being really lean, you're hungry, but then also juggling that with a student life. Was that the hardest thing you faced, or were there other issues in prep which you had to deal with?
I think my competitions were timed really well around like my uni, like the part of the university I was in. So my first comp, like it was 4 weeks after I finished university. So I had the last 4 weeks I could purely focus on that. So that fell in really, really well. My second comp was end of August. I was in clinic the entirety of August, so that was a little bit hard towards the end. I did crash. I did burn out, so I had to take 2 days off completely to just recharge. And then the nationals, it was just as the year started, so it wasn't as intense. So I think in terms of time-wise, I got quite lucky or quite tactical in a way of when I decided to compete. So that was good. But what was the initial question?
Was the student life? The struggles you faced in prep, what would you say they were? Was it the juggling the student life, or being hungry, or having fog? Well, what did you call it?
Fog
brain.
Brain fog.
What would you say the biggest struggle for you was, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest struggle. Oh my god, there's so many struggles you go through. I think it's when you reach your limit and you really hit a wall, like pushing through those days, because your energy comes in waves, and like it's like for example running, like you get that second breath of air and you kind of keep going. When you really hit a wall, like 3 weeks out of the nationals, I hit a wall like physically and mentally. Like I was completely burnt out, and I remember I was like, I don't know whether I'm going to finish this last prep. And I'm a person who's like super competitive, and I'm like, if I set my mind to it, like I'm not going to stop. And I remember my friend Meg, who I live with, she was like, Ev, don't take this the wrong way, but you look like you're really struggling. And I was like, I can't take that the wrong way. I am really struggling. Like, I'm really struggling. Like, any spare moment I would get, I would just snap. Like, I did not have the mental power to get through the day. I did not have the physical power to get through the day. I got through prep, like the last few weeks of prep, by power naps. I was in clinic one day, and I was so exhausted. I put my head down on the table, and my clinic chick goes, Ev. I look up, half asleep. She goes,
15 minutes later, like...
I look up and she goes, go into room 8 or whatever. I'll give you 50 minutes, take a power nap and come back. And I was like, thank you. I did not expect that.
That seems crazy.
I know, but you do get to like that level of like desperate, like you need.
But it's dedication though, because it would have been so easy for you to go, do you know what? This is impossible. It's just not going to work. But you did it anyway.
I think when you're that far in, when you've done so many weeks of prep and you've committed to the journey, like you have no choice but to complete it, because you know that if you fall off track or you decide to stop prep at that point of prep and you're only like got what 3 weeks left, I think the consequences of that mentally outweigh what it would be to stick to prep.
Well, you'll never know what you could have done.
Yeah, so I think if I was to like stop at 3 weeks out of the nationals, I think I would have got really depressed. I was like, because it gives my life a lot of meaning. It has come to that point of where like my life evolves around like bodybuilding now, and I love it and I live it. So I think if I would have quit at that 3 weeks out when I hit that big wall that's like, I don't know whether I can do this, and stop, I would have been depressed.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people sort of have those like make or break moments. I think that might have been yours. Do you know where they come to an obstacle and they're like, this is going to really test who I am, my character, and like what I've got in me, like the grit. And I think those moments, I think, are very important, especially to someone who's ambitious and wants to win and is such a competitor like yourself. I think you've sort of learned a lot more about yourself from that struggle than any success you've had.
Yeah, I remember that week I would just have like random mental breakdowns here and there. I got a message from my coaches while I was in an doing my work clinical experience in an NHS clinic, and they told me what my refeed was going to be that week.
You must have been chuffed.
No, the opposite. I walked into the disabled toilets, I cried, collected myself back together. I was like, okay, I need to go back in.
Why was it not much?
Oh, no, it was just like, because I would when you're not that close from the comp, your refeeds are like 5 guys, and you're like, yes, I get a 5 guys this weekend, right? Amazing. Then you get close, and it's like sweet potatoes mashed together with creams of rice, and you're just like, this is what I get to treat myself with this weekend.
That sounds amazing.
To be fair, when I tried it, it was pretty good. Yeah. But when I got told that, I was like, I was like, I wanted to cry, and I did walk into the bathroom, and I cried, and I
Were you
was like,
expecting a lot more?
I just wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
That must be so tough. It's like just wanting, because obviously myself and Alex, we haven't competed in anything to do with bodybuilding where you have to be such a minute.
I don't think I've ever been under 30% body fat. It's good. It's good. I'm fat and happy. Who cares?
So obviously that must be hard for you then, because me and Alex, whenever we get like into like a bit of a diet, there's not that much. There's not that much stake on the line. Like there's
loads of stake.
There's no external pressure for us to be like look a certain way. There's more internal pressure.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to look good in the mirror.
Yes.
So
exactly.
if we just say no, if I was like, oh, I'm really, really hungry, I'll have 5 guys tonight.
Matthew will go, oh, do you know what? I got legs tomorrow. I'm going to have a whole cheesecake tonight. And he does that on a regular basis, by the way.
What cheesecake are you going for, though?
Vanilla.
Just cheap Tesco vanilla.
It's
No,
lovely.
to be honest,
effective.
I am the same. Vanilla cheesecake, just plain vanilla cheesecake is my favourite. However, I will always opt for the most expensive one if I can afford it at the time, because it's just so much nicer. The cheap, I don't know.
Anyway, less of cheesecakes. So we can't obviously.
I don't know. I'm happy to stay on the.
We can refeed and like eat X amount of calories. Obviously, you can't. What is it like mentally to sort of know that there's no sort of escape from the diet, if you know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, you can't just go out and lash out and have like a 5 guys and chips and burgers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How do you deal with that?
When I'm in prep, I get quite creative with my meals though. So I'm such a foodie. Like, I love food. So I would find kind of gaps of like how I can still enjoy my food on prep. So it'd be like certain meals I'd make, like I would make tortilla wrap pizzas, and it's basically just a wrap. Like that's all it really is.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, like chicken, veg, and like maybe a bit of light mozzarella on top. Or like I came up with like a spinach pancake recipe, and it's
pancakes.
It's basically just egg whites, spinach, and maybe
just like an omelette.
Really, yeah. But then you can put a little bit of like wholemeal flour in there. But when you get towards the end of prep, you can't be using like the wholemeal flour anymore. So it does get an omelette by the end of it.
It's basically yeah.
Yeah, then you like cook your mushrooms and garlic and like chicken and put it on top. So you still there is opportunity to still enjoy meals.
Yeah, I'm terrible like that. I mean, right now I'm not even dieting for anything, and literally my meal consists of just white rice, dry tuna, dry, little bit of mayo, and that's it. Just that and then salt.
Yeah, I think.
And it's literally it is no real excitement. It's just like, right, let's just have that. I just think macros because it's easier. Yeah. I don't want to spend time thinking about how can I fit my macros into nice food, and because that's clearly quite lazy. I know. I'm just like, right. I know 2 frozen. It
works for you and you enjoy it.
It does work. I've done it for years, so it's not like the only problem is I've clearly not been able to. I do have a purge sometimes where I eat loads and loads of food because it probably affects me, and I'm just like, do you know what? I can't be arsed. I'm just gonna have like 8 carrot cakes, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not just like one. I'll have a little snack here. I'm just like I'm fed up of eating because I eat McCain frozen jar potatoes. I have 3 or 4 of them every single day. And I just know, it's just easy. I just know 2 of them, that's 90 grams of carbs. Have that, tin of tuna, a bit of mayo, that's 10 grams of fat, 35 grams of protein, 90 grams of carbs. And then I just know that. I don't even need to track anything. I just know. That's easier for me instead of, thinking, oh, what about this protein dessert that I can get? And then I wish I was like that I was more creative, but I'm just not.
Yeah, that's the thing when you're in prep. See, like you said, you've got to be creative with your food. I think that's a good lesson to apply to when you're not in prep. Do you know, like, say, for example, like, like an everyday person who wants to lose a bit of weight.
Yeah. I
think that's a good lesson they can learn because I've seen a lot of people, like, in similar situations to me and Alex, where we like to keep it basic and then we struggle. And I think that's quite insane for us to think that if we just keep it basic and dry.
Oh yeah, if I was leaner and I was getting cravings, there's not a chance I'd be able to be as bland as I am now. The only reason I can do that is because I'm eating enough calories that I'm not necessarily hungry.
Yeah.
So if I'm eating 3,500 calories, it's okay that I can eat bland food like that because I'm satiated, I'm full. If I was hungry, I'd be like, oh, I can't wait for that dry rice and tuna. No, never have I ever thought that. I'd be like, I want some taste,
Yeah.
Can I ask, do you know, obviously you're a coach.
Yeah.
And you coach clients. Do you sort of use your lessons from prep that you've learned, say, for example, creative foods, and give that to them in aid for them to achieve their objectives?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah?
I do have, like, before I start with clients, like, I get to know their likes, dislikes around food, because I wouldn't want to give a nutritional plan to my client and there's meals on there that they don't look forward to having. Because if you are, like, for example, in a deficit and there are meals, as you say, that are bland, for example, like very old school bodybuilders could just give you, like, plans that are just chicken and rice.
Chicken, sweet potato, a bit of broccoli, maybe.
Yeah, like, you're not going to stick to it. You're not going to adhere to it. So I always try and, like, make, like, chocolate baked oats and, like, tortilla pizza wraps or, like, lean beef burgers and then, like, frozen yogurt or, like, things like that I know they will enjoy. And when they enjoy it, like, I make sure that when I send out to them, I was like, do you like the whole plan? If not, we can amend it. We amend it, like, to their likings, and then I know they will adhere to it because they like the food plan.
Yeah, you suppose you got to start with what you like. I tell this to my father as well, because he's like me. But when he diets, because he struggles with sticking to a diet, when he diets, he goes from 0 to 100. So he's like eating McDonald's, drinking wine, cheese, biscuits, stuff that you shouldn't eat to diet. But he's not terrible with his diet. It's like proper food, but everything's nice. He kind of has what he wants when he wants.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's on a diet and he's like, literally, I'm just going to have one meal a day and it's going to be like chicken and rice. And firstly, he doesn't really understand that that's really not the way to go about it.
A lot of people don't.
But then, honestly, he lasts about a day and a half and then he's like, oh, fuck this. But you can't blame him. I mean, I'm telling him, look, start with what do you like? What do you like? And then, he'll say, oh, I like double sausage and egg McMuffin. So I'm like, well, make one yourself. Yeah. Start with that, and then we'll try and figure it out from there. But don't go from eating all the stuff you like and then cutting every single piece of it out. Because he goes, right, I'm going to go sober for 3 months. He hasn't even gone sober for like a week, and he's not an alcoholic. He's just a couple of glasses of wine.
Runs in the family, yeah.
But you know what I mean? This is what happens with us. We just kind of do and eat, drink what we want. And then when I'm trying to say, oh, I'm gonna diet now, I'm cutting everything out and going sober. I'm just drinking water and nothing else.
It's all or nothing kind of.
I know, that's the thing with me. I'm so extreme like that. I wish I could just go, right, how can I make it nice?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure I'd have to if I had to, like, get leaner.
That's my issue. I struggle with balance. Like, for example, you said that you make things that you enjoy. I can't do that. I'm like I'm either one end of the spectrum or the other. And I think that in order to achieve good progress, it's to be in the middle and sort of like enjoy what you do. Because you seem to enjoy the food you eat. I've seen some of the stuff on your Instagram and it looks really nice. And you seem to. I think you should bring her a cookbook.
Oh, I have
a prep cookbook.
There are things that, like, would be so handy to people on prep that I do, and I'm just like, some of the things that I've learned on prep, like I just discovered during the journey that I could, like, little hacks here and there, or like food, like hacks, and that do keep you going throughout. And I'm just like, I could do that, and maybe potentially I will.
Yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
I think you should. I think it'd help a lot of people.
This is an exclusive right here.
Yeah.
You're in 4K or 1080, whatever.
You're here first.
Yeah, sharing your business.
What is the biggest lesson you learned from prep? Because obviously you've had a competitive season now since for a couple of months now, 3 or 4 months, and you've been through the ups, the downs, the hards.
It's been a 6-month journey, I think now. Like I've just come into my off season now, and I think I count as like a total of 5.5 or 6 months of prepping. The biggest lesson is that if you're not mentally strong enough for it, that you ain't getting you ain't getting to the end goal.
You can't just become mentally strong through challenge. You have to be mentally strong first. Or
you have to be able to, when you hit around a 4-week mark, you have to realise that it's no longer testing your physical strength, because you ain't got none left. Like
that would bother me, and regardless of prep, that would bother me just generally. Knowing that I'd have to put that aside.
Yeah, so
and not think about it.
So 4 weeks then you lose.
Around 4 weeks out, I'd say, like, it becomes like the most mentally challenging part. Everyone has like a roughly different, like, period of when they hit that kind of like challenge, but for me it's around 4 weeks out. And if you're able to shift your mindset from like trying to outlift your PBs and do all the physical side to more mental, just kind of like ticking boxes in a way. It's like, I need to get my morning cardio done, I need to do this, do that, and like that certain mind techniques that you can do to make the journey easier for yourself. So So yeah, it's just that realization of like, it's not just physical, it's way beyond physical.
Yeah, I think this is the sort of area where bodybuilding and life, like general life, are quite cross-transferable. So, like you said about just ticking boxes, I think that's what goes on in life as well that you need to take from this. So I think if you could apply that lesson to life, then it obviously sets you up for success.
But it depends what sort of person you are.
Acquiring that discipline, because obviously you said it was just going and going.
But it depends, because for some people that's going to be nearly impossible. For me now, I'm not sure
what's impossible, or is that a self-set limitation that you
what I'm trying to say is, I think because you're saying you're ticking boxes, and Reese is like this as well. He's very regimented. Get up to your cardio 4:30, 5 a.m. and then do this and then do the pose in. And he's got everything like a checklist every day. Literally, they put it on their story. This is my checklist. This is what I've done so far. It's very regimented, very routine. And some people thrive in that sort of schedule. Like, they like the fact that they've just got to go through it.
Once you get in a routine, I feel like everyone would thrive in that
Do you reckon?
schedule. It's like, you just can't think about it too much, because the moment you start thinking, it's like you've already like kind of lost it. You just have to do it without thinking.
It's just to be just a tournament.
But that must help having a coach then. I assume you had a coach.
I have a couple that coach me. Yeah. And they're honestly amazing. They've become my family.
Yeah. So all you have to do is just do what they tell you.
In a way, yeah.
There's a lot of trust involved there.
There
obviously,
is.
you obviously financially pay them, but obviously there's a lot of trust.
Yeah, they don't care about you; they just want your money.
No, but what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of trust in the coach there, because they are sort of guiding you from this. Like, it's like you're on a ship and you're in like unclear waters, and then they're captaining your ship. And they just have to take you through like this whole journey of prep. such an artistic way of describing it.
I didn't realise how lucky I was with my coaches up until I started hearing horrible stories of other people who are on prep and their experiences with their coaches and the sort of things they made them do, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, I knew my coaches were good, but I was so lucky to find them first time, because there's so many experiences that I've heard of like females being put on some sort of fat burners that like make them lose themselves, and I'm just like, what on earth are going through these coaches' heads of like putting like females on these sort of like things?
Yeah, so their health wasn't a priority then.
No,
it was just
it was all about the end goal, and I was just like, what are you doing? You're ruining yourself.
Was the end goal then that was really driving you, like sort of winning and being the sort of top of your class, or was it more the accomplishment of the whole journey that was driving you? Or
winning.
Yeah, you weren't you weren't like, right, going up on the stage thinking, I'm here, this is where.
I didn't do my visualization thinking, I'm grateful for the journey. I did my visualizations thinking, my name's being called out as a winner. Like, you don't visualize like the event of going like, oh yeah, I got a participation medal. Like, nobody does that.
I got the opportunity to take part. Like, fuck off.
I won. A lot of people there's like, I've spoke to people before, and a lot of people get just motivated by the fact that they get to go to the competition. Do you know, like, if you qualify for something, they're like, right, I've been chosen, and I get really motivated the fact that I get to go here, instead of, I really want to win, and then they win anyway. It's like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you see a lot of that?
Yeah. I think it depends on what level we're talking about, because if it's a qualifier, if you're not winning a qualifier and you're not making it past like the top 3 in a qualifier, like, you ain't got no chances at the nationals, the worlds, or the universe. Like, that's like the base you need to kind of get past. And then I think when you get into like an invite to the nationals, I think that's where you're talking about like, I'm grateful for the opportunity, because that is crazy. Like, you are being against the best in the country. Like, that is something to be grateful for. And then when you place in like a certain placing in the nationals and you get an invite to the worlds, you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you are grateful.
You probably forget, because you're going through the different steps, you probably forget that looking back to step 1, like how far you've actually come. Do you feel that sometimes? You're just looking forward, you're not actually realising, shit, I've passed these checkpoints that a lot of people haven't been able to even get to.
Yeah.
Do you know what's crazy is that I've known Eva for a couple of years, not like well, but we went to university together. And
you were only there 5 minutes. Yeah. Don't try and act like you were you're an academic or anything.
Like, the last time I saw you was before you'd even done any bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And you know, it's crazy to think how far you've come from between just like being a casual sort of gym goer to now we've obviously met you and done this podcast again, and you're now Welsh champion, 6th in Britain. So like, the progression in such a short space of time is really motivating. And I think you've got to sort of look back at that sometimes and just think, 6 months ago, we were nothing. Now I'm a seasoned competitor already.
Yeah.
I've competed in this. I've done that. I'm Kim 6th in Britain.
Yeah, you'll soon be a graduate.
Yeah, and you've obviously got plans now for an off season and maybe a long off season.
Yeah,
I think next year.
I think I didn't when I when I was coming to nationals, I didn't realize that the Worlds was like 4 or 5 weeks after, and when I was told that, and I was like, oh my god, and then I did actually get selected to represent Team GB in the Worlds, but I struggled so much like with the nationals prep, and when I competed in the nationals, I realized that, looking back at the photos from being on stage, that my body type and my genetics aren't meant for bikini. Yeah. So I was in the wrong category. So I was like, I'm not gonna burn myself out for another 5 weeks of brain fog where I've got my dissertation deadlines coming up.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, it's not worth the sacrifice for me at this point anymore for a category that I don't want to go any further.
Yeah,
anyways.
You know that next season you're not gonna want to do that.
So I was
anyway.
like, there is no chance I'm gonna submit my deadlines with the brain fog.
Yeah. So what are your plans then? Obviously you're in an off season now. Yeah, are you going to do a long...
So I've not actually said this anywhere, like what my plans were. I was kind of just like keeping it to myself.
Another exclusive. It's full of exclusives episode. Anyway, breaking news.
So I've always admired and looked up to the wellness category. It's predominantly all lower base. So in bikini, the upper body to lower body is proportional. In wellness, the lower body is much more developed. And when I think of wellness, the perfect way to describe it would be, have you ever seen like a Spanish female bodybuilder?
I can't say that I have.
I can't. Oh,
okay,
Shall I have a look?
No. But like a lot of them, because of their genetics and because of their cultural background and ethnic background, they're meant for like building size. So they're really good and fit for that category. So what I want to progress into is wellness. How long it's going to take me to get there, like, it will all depend on how my body responds to this off season. I may be able to enter and compete end of next season, because I will need a significant off season to be able to grow.
Yeah.
Maybe I will need to take a bigger off season and compete the year afterwards. It will all depend on how my body responds, because my body's never been under the amount of like stress. That is currently like physical stress is currently under. So I'll just have to learn my body.
Yeah, that's the thing to you about bodybuilding. You get so in touch with your body.
Yeah.
And you probably know your body a lot better than you did previously before you got into this. You know, obviously you've stripped your body down to basically the bare minimum really to get in stage shape, and you must be very in tune with yourself now. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
It's like me and my chins.
I completely get that. Like when I was in my last off season, I honestly thought that when I was going to strip down all my body fat, I was going to be a flat ass, like pancake, like nothing's going to be there. I was like, I was convinced that I was just fat there. And when I stripped down, I was like, oh my god, like it wasn't, like thank god. But then at the end of the season, I did realize like I am looking like a bikini trained girl, especially like in the back pose. Like I had the most glute development, and the attachments were like coming out on stage, and which is why I was very confused at first with the placing on how I placed 6th. But I was just looking, I was like, there's more development than there should be for someone who's bikini toned, who's more bikini trained.
Yeah, that's the thing, see, because we focus a lot on obviously bodybuilding, so I'm not really that clued up on what it takes in the terms of judging criteria with sort of bikini athletes and stuff. So what are the judges looking for then? So if I was a judge now, and you were on stage, what would I be looking for in your physique as like a winning physique?
So with bikini, like condition is everything. Like, so as a bikini girl, the areas of development that you want, starting from the top down, are shoulders, back, glutes, hamstrings. Like you want to create that hourglass, that X shape on stage, and that they are the body parts that you build to, and then your waist will create the illusion of a smaller waist by building those areas, so you create that shape. And then the next thing on top is condition. So you need to be like really cut down, and to be able to see all the cuts. All the cuts, yeah. So like everything you've worked hard for. And then things like symmetry and posing are very important as well. So the difference between like coming a certain place can be the difference in posing. So if your posing is off, it can cost you like a placing really. Yeah. And I think my posing was my downfall at the nationals as well, because even though I was told that there's certain mandatory poses that you do in each category, even though that I was told on the side pose you can either go front leg straight or front leg bent, I was the only one with the front leg straight, so it wasn't like, looking back at the photos, I'm like, I can't even compare myself to the other girls because we're posing differently.
Yeah, I've seen loads of footage from the finals. I've seen your posing as well. It seems to be very like sassy.
It is very sassy.
You have like seem to have a.
Oh yeah, I saw a video. There was like a hair flick and everything.
Yeah, the hair flick. That bikini girls love that.
Is that what they look for though? Is like sass.
They love sass.
Yeah.
They absolutely love sass. When you have that charisma, when you have that stage presence. Yeah, like you stand out on stage, like you are drawn to that person. So a lot of girls for these competitions will get extensions so they can specifically do that hair flick, and you just feel more feminine, really.
So you won't see a competitor with like a skin fade.
I mean, in the male division, like there's loads.
No, you won't see like a female competitor with like a skin fade or like a buzz cut.
No, because that might make them look more masculine, and it's you want to look as feminine as possible.
I mean, everyone suits their own look, but you are like building muscles. That is a masculine trait, so you do want to bring some femininity onto stage.
And then the hair flick is how they achieve that, is it?
Yeah, well, Kai Green does a hair flick. I mean, his hair's a little bit different. He's got like a
brilliant. So what's the feminine competitive scene like? Because me and Alex had a discussion before. We were talking about the female gym scene overall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
comparing it to men, and I was saying that the women gym scene seems to be very like wholesome. I don't know if that's what it looks like.
But I said I don't think it is like that.
I think it's either one of the two.
I think there's a lot of hidden bitching behind that.
Either that, I think it's really negative.
In terms of in the competitive
scene,
or just in the gym. Like, are you staring and making enemies in the gym, or is it everyone?
I feel like in the gym, everyone's really friendly and supportive. Like, because you kind of make friends with the regulars, and when you see your regulars, it's kind of like a social circle. In the competitive scene, it's a mixture. Usually I tend to find a trend that the people who are in the top are actually the most friendliest and the most supportive. Yeah. And the people who are placing in the last placings, they tend to be the more bitchy ones, in my experience. That's what I've found. That's like not me saying that every person is like that though. But yeah, the winners support everyone.
Well, I suppose they would if they're winning. They don't care. They're like, I'm winning, so I'm supporting you guys in second place. Yeah,
but I think with winners, they obviously know what it takes to achieve that sort of like that placing. So they obviously have a respect for the people who were trying to knock them off the throne.
My biggest realization was like at my first competition, the day before my first competition, is like obviously you're going for your first layer of tan, and that requires you to get completely naked for the tan. And there's like a room with like 5 to 6 of those tents, and then like you strip naked, and it was like a bunch of like me and some bikini junior girls, and there was a wellness girl that I made really good friends with, and I stripped down and heard whispers, and I was like, oh god, like it's not what you want to hear, right, when you strip down naked, is it? No. Because for my first competition, my condition was insane. Like, I don't know how on earth I physically managed to achieve the condition that I did for my first competition. And the next day, me and the wellness girl that got our tans together, on the day before, she won her category, I won my category, and we was in the overalls together, and we were taking like the behind stage photos together, and she'd told me that the girls who didn't place in my category, they were the one saying things about my physique and not nice things.
So they were the negative ones.
Yeah.
But it's got to. And
but that happened even before anyone placed. That happened before we knew.
Well, they probably knew that you were in better shape than them. It's jealousy, probably, isn't it? It's got to come from that.
I think that's what it stems down to.
Yeah, it's the same in life as well. You always find the people at the very top. There are some very narcissistic, complete crazy people, but generally the people at the top are the nicest people, because I think they've as you said, they've built themselves up from nothing, and they've got something. But it's like if you look at men are competing against each other in life to be an alpha male. And even though that sounds very traditional, it's kind of true. It is kind of true. You know, and the people who, like the really fat, unattractive men, they're going to be the more sour ones. They are. Because they hate the people who are in shape, who are good looking, who get all the girls. That's the truth. And they're the ones who are bitching because they know that you're in better shape than them, you're more attractive, you're probably more intelligent.
It's kind of like deep-rooted within them, like frustration within themselves and being like pushed out onto others.
It's their own insecurity that they are projecting onto you because they can't...
It's easier to blame someone else or like to make someone else look bad than to actually acknowledge like, oh, this is my downfall.
Yeah, you've got to be really in touch with yourself. I've seen you're into meditating a lot. I just want to ask,
I love stuff like that.
What's your streak? What's your meditation
I lost my streak on comp day.
No?
So my streak was about, I think it was
1,000 something, I think, was it?
What days?
It was something like 3 months. Like 3 months
Right.
every day.
1,000 days.
No,
That's 3 years.
Minutes. That was minutes.
Oh, okay.
Because when I reshared it was like 1,000
That's
minutes.
good. Do you use like a Headspace or Calm or something?
I'm not a big fan of Headspace. I use an app called Insight Timer. I find it way better than Headspace.
Because I really want to get into meditation.
Oh, I love stuff like that.
I need to, and I think it's so beneficial to be very in control of your own mind and your own thoughts. I think that is where your biggest downfalls are, is your internal sort of thoughts. Yeah. Because your physical world around you is a lot different to the world you build up in your head. It's like,
that's the thing in the gym. Most of the time, when you fail or you give up before you, as in like even if you're doing a set and you give up and you're thinking, oh, that was all I had. That's your head, not your body. Yeah, and as soon as you become Zen, you realize that you were at 45%. You were nowhere near. Like I've never in my life done a set to 100%. Never in my life. And I know, but I don't know. I don't really know, you know, if somebody was there literally not letting me, saying, I will shoot you in the head until I know you've done 100%. Maybe then I would. And I'd probably realise I've got double the amount of reps in me. Do you know what I mean? That's your head. And just generally, and in powerlifting as well, if you're powerlifting, you know, then the reason this is different to bodybuilding is that you go and lift a weight once, 1 rep. But the difference to bodybuilding is when you lift a weight in bodybuilding, you know you can lift it. You just don't know how many times you can do it. Okay. Whereas in powerlifting, you don't know if that weight's coming back up because it's so heavy. So it's a little bit different. So you've got a lot of psychological thoughts going around in your head before you make the lift. You know, oh my God, what if I fail this? Am I going to hurt myself? You know, are people going to laugh at me? If you just you build that anxiety up, and I'm a very anxious person anyway, and I do care about what other people think of me, despite the way that I talk about other people. Like, I don't care what you think of me, I'll do what I want. That's just sort of like the way that I want to be. But, you know, deep down, I do care. I don't want to fail a squat in front of people in the gym. But if you're in your head and you're calm, and when I was meditating I did it a bit, like 50 minutes every morning, I genuinely did feel just calm. Like, not necessarily no emotions, but I wasn't up and down like this. I was just sort of present as well. Yeah. And not focusing on what people are going to think when I go for my next rep or my next squat. Just get this weight down and up. What do I need to do in the moment? And it helps. Yeah, that was a really long-winded response to whatever you asked.
That's what I want to do, because I have a lot of admiration for people who are like very good at meditating and who do it often, like yourself. And I wanna get into it, but I just don't know how to start. I don't know what to do.
I'd say start with guided meditation, because then at least you know what you're supposed to do. So if you start with like silent meditation, you're kind of sat there in stillness. I'm like, what do I think about? What do I do?
Oh God, I'm so excited for next week's episode. That's what you'll be doing.
I'm so excited to open a gym.
The whole idea of meditating is to be still and to not think about anything and just really be present in that moment.
But honestly, I only do guided meditation because I was a complete beginner when I was doing it, and it was said, think of nothing, or just let the thoughts leave your mind. And then what happens then is I think about not thinking, and then I think about all the things I shouldn't be thinking of.
That's me.
But that's the thing. That's okay. And as I kept doing it, I didn't get to a point where I could do it without guidance, because I'd end up just distracted. But the amount of times that I've lost focus on my breath, or I've become thinking about something and like forgot that I was even meditating. Do you know what I mean? It happens. But I think what I learned was just realizing that I've been distracted and coming back to where I was focusing on my breath again and just going, do you know what? I realized that my mind went somewhere. That's okay. Let's carry on. Instead of going, what the fuck am I doing? You expect yourself to be like a Buddhist monk immediately. That's the thing about meditation. I expected me to be, perfect at it immediately. But I think it takes probably a long time. And if you've done it for that long, like, you can tell us. What's it actually like when you get through the initial stages?
Monk is what Alex
Yeah.
No. There's so many different types of meditations like that you can do. So when I find that I'm struggling to get my thoughts straight, I find that silent meditation's really good, because then I can kind of put everything into perspective and kind of have a structure in my mind and just relax and focus on my breathing. Or the other way around, like when I am calm, like being taken through a guided meditation and following a certain other person's like point of view can be quite beneficial. But it literally all comes down to deep breathing and just like coming back to that, as you were talking about, like just that stillness. And the moment you start find yourself wandering off in with your thoughts, just bring it back to your breath.
Yeah, that's what I struggle with. I'm very 100 miles an hour in my thoughts. Like I'm constantly.
I wish you were like that with your work to Clwb.
I'm constantly thinking about things.
I find a way during prep to like combine it with things. So like I would do my morning spin in the house and I would be listening to a guided meditation with my headphones on. So it's obviously not the way you're meant to do meditation, because the whole point is stillness, but it's kind of like the stillness of thoughts rather than the stillness of the body. So I can be quite fidgety and I can be quite all over the place and like maybe like even mild ADHD, So doing like my morning spin and being able to disconnect my mind from my body, so like my body will continue going at the same pace, and just doing my morning spin, and then let's say I've put on like a guided meditation that's like 20 minutes long with my headphones on. I'm with my mind, I'm focusing on what's being said. With my body, it's just being a constant pace spin. So like it made my morning cardio and made prep so much easier for me, because I would combine the two. And next time when I open my eyes, I'm like, oh my God, I've already done 20 minutes of my morning cardio. Like, it's already done.
It takes your mind off it,
So that was like a good way to, in a way, distract myself from my morning cardio. But you just have to like get in a good routine of like, you have to be at a constant pace. Because if you're pedaling at 2 miles an hour, like that's nothing,
Yeah, that's why I want to get into meditation, because it just seems to be very sort of beneficial, obviously. But it seems to be very productive too. I feel like people who meditate and sort of are in control of their own thoughts can channel it into a very positive, productive way. And I want to be one of those people, because I want to stop procrastinating.
Mate, you are the worst.
And I want to stop.
Instead of doing podcast clips, we're looking at gyms. And I'm not judging you, because I'm doing stuff like that as well. But you're looking at, let's look at the gym we're going to get in 5 to 10 years. And I'm like, Math, you had stuff. You had stories to post this morning. Can we do them instead? Just for now. And it's just about like, I'm very like regimented, and I just put everything on paper. I think it's really hard, and the thing that I think you're still learning is that you procrastinate because you don't have everything on a list that you need to do on paper. I think if you just you got to spew all of your ideas out. It's called the second brain, making a project management system. You don't even have to think about things, you just do. And that's probably helpful during prep as well. When you have a coach, they kind of set out a game plan and you just sort of follow it. If you had to think about everything and you had to answer your own queries, that must have, you can imagine how that could make it a million times harder, right?
Yeah, it's also like the accountability and like having a second pair of eyes, because you see yourself every single day. You do not see like the significant differences up until you're like a few weeks out, and then you're like, oh my God, like
I'm shredded.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm gonna say that.
I've said that a few times, and you know.
I've never said that about myself in my life.
So like last night, for example, I've just started my off season. I just sent like my coach my lifts, what I'd done during my workout, and his response was like, oh, well, the first 3 sets your warm up then. And I was just like, what do you mean? It was like, oh, you can lift way more than that. Like you need to up that weight. And I was like, okay, yes, I will do next session. You know?
Yeah, I can imagine how that's a good thing, because then you're if you can see that someone else isn't doubting you, you're not going to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you said to him, he obviously said to you, oh, that was your warm up. You're like, no. Next week, I bet you when you train that, it's going to be easy. I think you'll find that you won't struggle as much. And I think that's what the benefit of having someone else there for you would be.
Yeah.
Like you probably had so many doubts during prep. And I think if you didn't have your coach, how well would you have sort of dealt with those
Yeah, it's like when you don't know whether you're at the place that you need to be. So especially it being my first season, like I didn't know where I was supposed to be at each week. I had no clue, especially like my first comp. Like I didn't know whether I was like the amount of lean, like how lean I was supposed to be, how shaped I was supposed to be, anything really. So I was just like, for my first competition, I was completely relying on my coaches. And, like they were telling me exactly like, Ev, you are where you need to be. Like stop stressing. I was like, okay.
So is there like lessons from this prep you're going to take into the next one? And if so, where are they?
Lessons that I would take into my next prep. Oh, I think the biggest one was that I started this prep, or I entered my first competition way too early on in the season. So my first comp was in July, beginning of July, like 2nd of July. My second comp was 28th of August, and the British finals were on the 15th of October. Yeah. I should have done like if I wanted to do multiple qualifiers, like back-to-back weeks. Like I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to like do my first comp in July and then leave it and then spontaneously enter my second qualifier and then like in between like my first and the nationals and then do another whole prep for the nationals, because that shit is exhausting.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so like being on prep for that long, I would not recommend it.
No?
No.
Oh, I got it. I was gonna try it actually, but now that you said, I don't think I will.
No, God,
yeah, like
no.
You need to like pre-plan like what comps you're going to do, and then base it around those competitions, and you want them to be as close as they possibly can, so you don't have to put your body through so much prep.
It seems so long. Like, the whole
it was.
Yeah, I know. Literally, so like I've done. When I cut, I usually like do like a quick 3-day water cut.
This guy, like, honestly.
And then I'm like, look, Matthew's the same though. Don't start now, because you used to cut, and then you'd be like, right, I'm gonna refeed now. Like Matthew refeeded yesterday, so he's like having like 2 refeeds a week, and he's only cutting like 200 calorie deficit, and then he's having a massive 10K binge twice a week. And like, I'm not sure that's the smartest way to go about it.
I think I need accountability. I think.
Yeah,
I like what you said there about having someone to keep you accountable and to set you objectives. And I think that if I had someone to set me small objectives, I don't know if you found this with your coach, but if they set you small objectives, they would contribute to the larger objective, and you'd find it easier to stay on track.
Yeah.
Do you know, like if, say for example, they say, "Oh, I need you to lose like 30 pounds," you'd be like, "That's a lot." But then if they were like, "Oh, I need you to lose half a pound this week, and then 1.5 pound next week," having those small objectives lead into that bigger objective.
I'm not sure either of us need to lose 30 pounds.
No, but just for argument's sake, then I think that would be so much more beneficial than just having like, "Oh, you need to lose X amount of weight." And I think I need a coach.
Yeah, I think you
really do.
Definitely like do your research in the coaches available before you commit to a coach. So when I found Sarah and Pete, it was I was asking around. I couldn't find any prep coach in the area. I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. I was just looking around, and I think I found like a few people, but I found Sarah and Pete, and I was like, honestly, I didn't want anyone else, because the moment I saw what Sarah looked like, Sarah's in her 50s, and she looks like the way she does. If you've seen her, I've reshared her almost.
Yeah, is she the one that came to train with you the other day? Was it her?
Like a few weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Yeah.
She was quite broad and quite big.
Like her upper body is absolutely insane. I just all I had to see was just like see what she looks like, and I was blown away. I was like, I want to be coached by her.
Yeah.
And luckily, like everything aligned really well, and they do it in like such a healthy way, and like they don't starve you like many coaches do. Like I think the lowest my calories went on prep was when I was in the carb deeply, and that was 1,600. And I know there's bikini girls dropping to 1,200 or 1,000 or 800. Like I know somebody who dropped to like in their 800s, and I'm just like, how on earth did you function?
That seems like 800 calories is like literally.
I've burned that since we started the podcast. Literally, that's mental. That's literally
insane. 800 calories. That's. I was watching a podcast before. From it was George Osborne's podcast. I don't know if you've heard of him. And there was a woman on that, Caitlin Hill. I think I've told you about her. And she was on 800 calories a day. And she one of her meals on rest days, I think it was 10 grams of peanut butter and a teaspoon and a protein shake. That was a meal. On like one of her days. I was thinking, how can you function That's
to be fair,
a low
teaspoon
calorie.
of peanut butter.
Literally.
Oh.
I'm hungry thinking about it.
Oh, no.
Honestly. It's just mad.
When I get into depth of prep, I try not to have protein powder. I want to have my foods like in physical form.
Yeah.
So I will be like having tuna, chicken, beef, egg whites. Like
I thought you were vegetarian.
I was before I started bodybuilding, guys.
Yeah, because I remember before you were like veggie or vegan, and I was like, okay. And then, and I saw last weekend.
Okay, I'm not sure about you.
I saw last weekend you had a massive burger.
Oh my god, it was a peanut butter jelly burger. It was insane. It was so good.
I think we need to go to these expos just for the food.
Oh yeah,
Seriously.
this was in Birmingham. We went to a place called Fat Hippo. Oh,
I'm sure I've heard of
Alex's
that.
restaurant, isn't it?
What do you mean my
it was
restaurant?
insane.
It's named after you.
And we got waffle fries with so much cheese sauce over it and like jalapenos
don't.
and beef. And it was amazing.
How good are those post-show meals then?
Insane.
On a scale from 1 to 10.
An 11. Like the cookies. You saw those cookies, the cookie dealer. That's what kept me going through the last 3 weeks of prep, knowing that at the expo there's going to be cookies, and also the fact that my family's bought tickets to come watch me. But the cookies, I was like, oh my god, after stage I get to have the cookies, and I was like, just think about the cookies.
Yeah, I was looking at the cookies and I was honestly thinking, I'm going to sell the camera I just bought just to buy like 10 of those cookies. They looked insane. Obviously, you mentioned your family. Were they very supportive in you going into the sort of competitive scene?
My mum is always supportive of like any sort of route I take, but my stepdad, so he comes from like a Russian background.
Okay.
So he's a Latvian, but like in Latvia we have the Latvian Russians, if that makes sense. And I didn't know whether he would be supportive, because I remember when I was just a gym girl and I used to go to the gym, I remember him like telling me not to lift heavy weights because I don't know where the correlation happens, but if I lift heavy weights I won't be able to have children. Don't ask me. Very like old mindset. I'm like, I didn't really see the correlation, but like, it's kind of like a woman shouldn't lift heavy weights sort of thing.
It's very traditional.
Yeah.
Your duty is to have children, don't fuck it up.
But when I found out that like both my parents bought tickets to come watch my first show, and I was like very surprised, and that my dad was being very supportive of it, because it is like bodybuilding is lifting weights, and initially like he didn't want me to lift heavy weights, but he was so proud of me, like, and he has been so supportive since day one, and he wants to be there for every show, and he always asks me like, for my last competition for the nationals, he was like, what do you want me to bring, what do you want me to bake? And I was like, can you please like bake the homemade
that must be a massive motivator then.
Yeah, like it was insane to see like the mindset shift in my stepdad, because I didn't expect that, going from what the perspective used to be to what it is now. And I'm so grateful for it. Like, it's so nice to know that both my parents are very, very supportive of it.
Yeah, there must have been a massive sort of, not bit of pressure on you, but like knowing your family's going to be there, you must have thought, right, I need to get through this. I need to get through the brain fog.
I was like, yeah, my whole family's paid for the tickets. Like, I need to like get through this now, so otherwise their money's gone to waste, not just mine.
Yeah, that must have pushed you on a lot. You know, knowing that they were there. And I think that having that sort of motivation probably lit like quite a fire in you. Yeah. And then obviously when you're on stage, were you nervous when you go on stage? Did you like see them in the crowd? Like it was a packed crowd.
Just the thought of that now is giving me anxiety. Honestly, I cannot think of anything worse.
When I'm on stage, I try to find my coach in the crowd, because there will be certain things that your coaches may either shout or they may either like point or something like that, for you to showcase yourself better. Yeah. So that's like kind of who you look for, your coaches, straight away. Leading up to my last show, like I wasn't nervous, but for some reason when I stepped on the national stage, my legs started to shake, and no matter how much I kept telling myself in my mind to be still, to be calm, my legs were shaking. I couldn't stop it, and I was like, why? Like, I've been so calm leading up to the comp. I stepped on stage, my legs are wobbling, and obviously I'm in heels. I'm like, please don't trip.
Yeah, I saw that stage, the PCA stage, and they make like a really massive like sort of fixture of it, don't they? They put like
is that the one with like the pillars in the background?
Yeah.
That looks nice.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, that's such a massive stage, like, and you think of how much space there is there. You must feel like so nervous just going on there.
How many people?
So
was it 1,000 people there? Thousands of people. 1,000 people. It's not that much, is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Especially
I don't know
suppose
what
if
the
you haven't-
audience was in the Nationals, but in the Birmingham one, it was 1,000, and the Welsh one was probably roughly the same.
Yeah. And you obviously won the Welsh Championships.
Yeah, it was good.
Has your sort of like social life changed since you won that? Because obviously that's a massive achievement to be a national champion in something. Have you had like a lot of people come up to you and ask to train with you, or have you had collaborations with brands? I know you're obviously sponsored by GSP supplements.
GSP, we started working together way before I started bodybuilding.
Oh, right, okay.
So we've been loyal to each other since day one. So that they've been there to support me. So that's been really, really nice. They even came to my first competition, all of them. So I really, really, really appreciate that. But in terms of my social circle, I think my social circle has decreased.
Yeah.
Because your life does become a lot about like training, and I thrive in my training when I train by myself. I don't know about others. Other people like prefer
Same.
group training.
Absolutely.
Group training.
Yeah.
I can't do it. If someone is constantly expecting me to talk to them during training, like,
Oh, yeah,
it's
no.
just not
Well,
happening.
so we can train together, but at the same time, I would rather train on my own.
Yeah,
I have to be like really comfortable with a person to train with them, and just be like, when I'm like severely out of breath, like, don't expect me to have a conversation with you. Like, it's just not happening. I have had girls reach out to me wanting to train with me, but I just can't. Firstly, I don't want to train with others unless I know that they're gonna push me to my limits.
Yeah, you don't.
So they've got to be at least your level or more advanced.
Yeah,
in a way, yeah. I try not to say that though, because I do feel bad of like, saying that out loud, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I said, sorry, I can't
thing.
train with you. You're actually not on my level.
No,
that sounds so egotistical.
That does sound egotistical, but that's not what I mean by that. I'm just like,
No.
because I know that if I'm training with someone, I'm gonna have to push to my limits, and then also pull somebody else's limits. So I'm like, I want to put my energy into my training, because every session does count when you're on prep.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I've trained with people in the past before, and I've been training with them, and they've just been on their phone just like this. Like when I'm doing my set, I'm thinking, how are you going to push me if you're just scrolling on Tinder?
I do that though.
But like, obviously, when you're in prep, you want someone to spot you and push you. You don't want them, on their phone on Tinder seeing who the next match is going to be.
I've gotten very comfortable with like asking strangers to spot me though. So I'll just be in the gym, like training by myself, and I'll just be like, I'll just look around me, I'll see who the biggest guy is, and I'll be like, would you mind spotting me for this set?
I suppose you got decent people there. In our gym, I don't want to ask anyone, because on the amount of times I said, can you please not grab the bar when I'm benching, and they hold the bar the whole time. And I'm like, I literally just told you, don't grab the bar. I said, if I need help, I will say no, and I'll shake my head. You'll know when I need you.
Yeah.
But still, and I know this is going completely off topic, but
it's good to see. It's good to see a female who is comfortable in a gym environment, because I feel like a lot of girls these days feel so uncomfortable.
That's true.
I'm not trying to say it's like a masculine environment, but like there's a lot of men. If you look at the ratio of men to women in a gym, it tends to be like 70% men, and I feel like a lot of girls get like sort of put off like training hard because they don't want to ask like a man for like a spot or something, or they feel very uncomfortable. But it's really good to see that you're like, you'll go to the biggest guy and just ask him for a spot, and I like that. And I think that if any girl could get your attitude, I think they would make a lot of progress.
And thanks, I really appreciate that.
I think that's important, because I've got a lot of. I know a girl who wants to compete. I don't know whether she told me about it in passing before, and I don't know if it's serious or whether it's just like a thing. And I think if you had to give girls advice on potentially competing, what would you say? Would you tell them to just do it, or would you say to like try something first to know if you'd actually want to do it, or like maybe like a mock sort of prep?
I think the best advice I could give to someone is finding a coach that works for you.
So like you, find you, plug your own coach services.
So you have to find somebody that works with you. So there are certain coaches that have their style of training. There are certain like big companies for bikini bodybuilding, and they each have their own look, and you have to really align with that. So once you find a good coach, they will give you advice on posing, they will give you advice on nutrition, they will give you advice on training, they will work around like your mindset. Just having that someone who really understands you and can get you to your level, to your like next level. But in terms of competing for the first time, go into an off season. Like don't go into like prep thinking, oh, like I want to start. I want to start like cutting down, because you been in an off season long enough to have a base to cut down to? Because a lot of people start cutting down way too early and they don't have enough of that muscle development underneath to showcase. They kind of just jump into it, and I'm like, well, once you cut down, you're just gonna be lean.
Yeah, you're not gonna look like developed.
Yeah, you're gonna look like in a way that you're going on holiday, like you've cut down for a holiday because you ain't got the muscle development underneath it. So it's really important to not skip that first stage and like really focus on growing and progressively overloading.
Just go just absolutely huge winter arc. For, like,
no, but I completely am on board with having a coach that you really vibe with. And me as a person, I suppose I'm harder to get on with than with a lot of people. I think I'm very stubborn. I think a coach has to be very much okay with that. And the coach that I got now, Antoine, who is our previous guest, 2 episodes ago now, me and him know each other well, and he just doesn't listen to my shit. And he's just like he knows that. Sorry,
he's more like. So he's established, so he can sort of tell you, look, I'll do this.
No, it doesn't matter about that. It doesn't matter about that. It's about him as a person and me as a person. Like, I had a coach before who, honestly, nice guy, but he was an older guy, very traditional ways, didn't really tell me why I was doing things, just told me what to do, and then told me off when I didn't do them right. I didn't like, and I don't know whether that's just because he's not a great coach in general, but we didn't vibe. We were constantly arguing and telling him, but why, and he's, I don't know. But it was really hard for me to make gains because we didn't vibe. But now I've got Antoine, and when I say, because I have 2 kind of personas. One persona is being really cocky, like, yeah, I'm a beast. And one persona is, I'll never be able to do it. And he's like, when I'm saying, yeah, I'm a beast, he's like, no, you're not, stop it. And then when I'm saying I can't do it, he's like, shut up, stop being a bitch. So, and that's what I need. It just snaps me out of it. Right, focus again. That's honesty. And since that, I've been more motivated than ever, and I'm going to compete as soon as I can. Yeah. And now I have that motivation, whereas before I didn't even think about competition. I was just trying to get through the weekly call with my coach. I was like, right, how is this going to fucking go now?
How can I make it sound as if I've done stuff?
It is really helpful when your coach can explain to you why you're doing the things you're doing. Absolutely. Because then you are more likely to adhere to it as well, because you understand the science.
You actually get it. Like we did my program together on a Zoom call, and he asked me, he was like, right, so this and that. So when he's programming my accessories, and obviously it's vastly different to what you'd be doing, but it was sort of looking at me and saying, right, what sort of things do you like? That's not why he programmed. He didn't program just things that I liked, but he'd ask me, and then he'd say, look, this is why I'm putting this in, because you said you got tight adductors, so you're going to do an adductor machine. You're going to strengthen those adductors. I know, but that's the thing, and I understand why I'm doing things now. I'm not just doing random exercises that I've never heard of for no reason, because it's hard. So I don't want to do something hard without actually understanding it. You know.
Because when you know the benefits of it, it pulls you through when it's hard.
Yeah, I think there's obviously benefits to competing as well, and I think a lot of people overlook them for the fact that it's going to suck at some points.
It will suck.
I feel like a lot of people need to sort of, because like we've established, being competitive and competing does bring aspects of your life forward as well. Like, you've been more in touch with yourself, you've had more of a structured routine, and it's obviously beneficial.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people tend to forget that, because they just see the negative. And I think I would encourage a lot of people to do it, not only to just compete, but do stuff that you want to do. Just try it, because I think if you applied that attitude of not doing it, you wouldn't have competed, and you wouldn't have got to where you are now. And I think you can agree with me that you're a much better person, like in terms of structure and everything now, than you were back then. Yeah. And I think there's a lesson to be learned there for a lot of people, especially females, because there doesn't seem to be as many female competitors as male. Obviously, there's a lot of male competitors.
It's definitely growing, though. That's
what I mean. It's nice to see, and it's good to see, like, there's more girls in the gym now than ever, and fitness is becoming very sort of mainstream now. And I think it's good to have a spotlight on people and for them to do what they want to do.
Well, bodybuilding as well, not just fitness, because I think people want to, I don't know, go down that route. But, however, and I know you're saying it's a great thing, but we did an episode with Clwb who said the bodybuilding lifestyle can be very unhealthy, and it's not necessarily the optimal way to live your life. Do you actually think it's worth it, all of the sacrifices you're making? Or do you think maybe it's too extreme and that you're giving up too much of your life?
Well, I feel like we know the answer to that. But...
Well, I didn't ask you, did I, Michael?
I can tell he's been cutting.
I've
Cutting, fucking hell.
I've heard many coaches say this, but they see that bodybuilders have a shelf life. And a female shelf life is much shorter than a male shelf life.
Really?
So when you start and when you commit to bodybuilding, like, it's going to be pretty full on for like the next 5 years, if you're committing to it. And then it's really down to you how much you're going to prolong that. So what was the initial question? Is it
worth it? All the sacrifices and everything like that?
I think you think about what would you be doing if it wasn't for bodybuilding right now, and you'd be like, okay, I'd be going out with my friends, and you're having fun and you're making memories, like, that's a positive side to it, but really you're ruining yourself. So I think the benefits do outweigh the consequences in terms of like your health, and because like, you're not going out with your friends drinking, but you've built a new social circle in the gym. Like you see the regulars, like, they become your social circle. It is like going out.
It's normally more productive as well.
Yeah,
the people you meet in the gym are normally more, I don't want to say better people, because
if you're in the gym training and that's sort of your discipline doing that, you're probably better than the guy who's disciplined or girl who's disciplined going to the pub every weekend. I know it's a bit of a simplistic way to put it, but it's generally a healthier social circle, is my point.
I think being in the gym and doing fitness related things and achieving things.
There's nothing fitness about me though.
How many chins you could fit in.
You build new social circles. So it becomes from somebody you used to go out with to somebody you see in the gym every night. Like, your social circle just shifts. It just becomes a different social circle.
Yeah, so has competing improved other aspects of your life? Like, obviously, you've said that you had brain fog during your clinics, but have you sort of improved your commitment to your studies because you've been so disciplined in one area? Has it carried over to other aspects?
That is quite questionable, because when it gets really physically demanding, any spare moment you get, you want to rest. So it depends on kind of what stage you're at, because yes, you can apply the discipline to your studies, but also if you're that physically exhausted, you want to rest. So it's really how you put it to use. So I think one thing it definitely helps, like, majorly, and I was like, it gave me a lot of meaning in my life, is when I went through my breakup this year, it gave me something to focus on. And like, it was really important as well, because we broke up before my first competition. So I was like, well, I can't, like, I have to completely focus on this, and it helped me and him because we were both on prep. So like, we went for the breakup, but we had something big that for the both of us happening, so we still needed to remain focused for that. So that was it helped majorly. So if you go for a breakup, hit the gym, like.
That's literally if you go on TikTok, that's literally all you see.
Oh yeah,
literally. You go down your news feed or whatever, and it's literally all like gym motivation, and that's what sad things are.
Because it's not actually like just the gym time. Like, you're also meal prepping, like, so that takes up your time. But although I'm quite a lazy meal prepper, so you know how like people do like the individual lunch boxes and plan their days out? I don't do that. I just shove the chicken in the oven, let it cook for 25 minutes, take it out and shove it in the fridge. Like, that's why I meal prep, because I'm a lazy meal prepper, and if I can do it, anyone can do it, because all I do is shove the chicken in the oven, it's as easy as that.
I think what you said there is very resonated with a lot of people in terms of like breaking up and going to the gym, and like I went through like a bit of personal struggle.
Here we go now.
I'm just relating it. Come on. And the gym did help me a lot, and it sort of puts you on a path to becoming a better person. Granted, I didn't compete, but it does help you a lot in other aspects of your life, especially when you're dealing with things like you said, like a breakup. And I think that's gonna inspire a lot of people. Like you said, if you can do it, like, people can just do it. And I think just doing it is probably one of the most important things you can do, is just doing it. Because if you never actually just went after it, how are you going to achieve anything?
It's the same. I ran a powerlifting club in uni, but never competed. I was in the club for 3 years, never competed. And I know COVID got in the way, but that's just an excuse, because the COVID hasn't been 4 years long. But then Antoine's telling me, look, you've never competed, but you talk about powerlifting all the time. I'm like, yeah, do you know what? You're right. I mean, I'm just avoiding it. But, you know, as you said, the competing itself, you've just got to get after it. I want to do it, so I've just got to get after it and do it. And if I'm not ready, the thing is with me as well, I mean, this is a big thing probably. And as I was saying, the anxiety I would get about stepping on stage and showing my body to people just to look at, I don't know, I just don't like it. But it's the same with powerlifting, because that's a numbers game. People can see your numbers, you know, how much are you lifting? And you come out in the order of strength. So if you're out first in your flight, you're the weakest in the flight. That's a given. And it's literally like, am I ready? What if I'm the weakest in the flight? And then I'm all insecure about it. But I think if you want it, the best way to do it and get better at it is just to go and do it and then learn from the mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's probably a piece of advice that I'm giving myself, because I can't give it to anyone else because I haven't done it.
To himself. What do you think, not your biggest mistake, but what was the biggest thing you sort of would have done differently if you could?
What would I have done differently?
Or like what you've learned from, you thought, right, I'm not going to do that again.
I would definitely say have in-person posing sessions, because I think I had 3 posing sessions with one of the PCA judges, and they were all online, so through the phone. So even though they were great posing sessions, they definitely would have benefited a lot more being in person, because then they can physically tweak you and show you and help you. So because posing plays such a significant difference in your placing, like you can literally be like the difference between first and last down to your posing. So having that in-person posing, and it sounds ridiculous because bodybuilding is all about building your body, but if you can't showcase your body,
that's crazy. You could ruin all of that by poor posing.
Yeah,
you know. That's
so
crazy.
I think having in-person posing sessions, which I will be doing soon, because I'm also moving into a different category, I'm gonna have to know different posing. So definitely having those in-person posing sessions will greatly benefit me.
Yeah, like you said about posing, I'd love to learn to pose.
I know. Do you know what? I've never given it a go.
Because I would just love to know how to, like, not show off my body, but to myself. Like, I'd love to know how to properly do it. Because I feel like people go to the gym and they like flex and stuff, and they're not really doing it right. And I think you can sort of see your gains a lot more if you know how to pose. Yeah. Because like you might have experienced this. Before you started taking your posing seriously, you probably looked better when you knew how to pose, rather than when you were just doing it aimlessly.
I look back at the first ever photos I sent to my coaches. I don't know what I was doing in those photos. Because I knew nothing about posing at that time.
You just kind of like just
I just kind of like stood there with flexing my biceps, and I was just like, I'm a bikini girl. Why am I flexing my biceps?
Will you be flexing your biceps in this new category?
No, not in this one.
Oh, that's funny. Right, I think we've been going nearly 2.5 hours now.
So what happens when you're having fun?
Yeah.
I know you were quite nervous for this podcast.
Yeah, because I've never done like a podcast, so I didn't know what to expect, how I was gonna feel. Because I could be like so calm leading up to it, but like then when I stepped on stage, I was so nervous. I was like, "Why?" It's just
your legs weren't shaking when you walked in the other day.
No.
No.
I have that effect on people. I know.
It's funny enough, Al actually warned Eva, saying that he was a prick beforehand, which I've never seen him do before. But anyway, guys, thank you for listening to this episode of the Clwb podcast. If you want to find Eva's coaching services or her Instagram to follow her journey, they'll be in the description below. Eva, is there anything you'd like to say? Anyone you'd like to shout out before we wrap it up?
Oh yeah, my coaches. They've been absolutely amazing support the entire time. Sarah and Pete Lawson, absolutely love them to bits. They have become my family. And if you are looking for coaches for competing in any category, they are you guys.
What about yourself? Are you looking to take on new clients?
I do more lifestyle coaching. So if you are looking for like lifestyle changes and just general building lean muscle mass or cutting down, like that's what I specialize in, so that's what I would recommend for that.
Her links will be in the bio, so if you do want to get in contact with Eva to lose weight or get in better shape for the summer coming up, then please find her links in the bio. But nonetheless, I've been Matthew, Alex has been himself, and this has been another episode of the Clwb podcast. Thank you for listening, guys, and we hope you have a nice evening or night or day. Well,
I hope you have an absolutely terrible day.
But anyway, thank you for listening, guys, and we shall see you in the next episode.
See you later.